What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, doing another episode of Trash or Treasure. This time we're talking about the Winged Dragon of Ra Spear Mode. This is a card that I have been kind of hinting on and talking about for a little bit of time now, maybe a little over a month, and I think that Invasion Vengeance and the release of Totally Awesome pretty much just solidified us as having a format that pretty much is revolving around turn 1 stun fields, a bunch of stun monsters that either act as floodgates or just kind of act as like traps, things like Rafflesia, Vanity's Fiend, Dark Law, Totally Awesome, Cyber Dragon Infinity, Titanic Galaxy, etc., or monsters that can easily dodge, monster effects, easily dodge attacks, kind of just come in and out on the field as they choose. Things like Spirit Dragon, Cyframe Lord, Omega, or Kirin. They can be difficult to kill because you try and Regeki them and boop, they're just not on the field anymore. Your opponent bounces them to their hand, or they just like go off field or something like that, and you've missed your opportunity to kill that monster. So the Winged Dragon of Ra is a monster that is equipped to handle these really big, strong fields. And if you look at decks like Heroes, or even at times Cyber Dragons, Paleozoics, these are decks that are predicated on making really, really strong fields that you will not be able to play around. And this is kind of the perfect answer. And I will admit, if you resolve this thing, it generally is a blowout against ABCs and Heroes and Mermills, because they generally don't have a lot of answers. They may have one or two ways in their entire deck of killing this thing. You tribute summon it using 3 monsters from either player's side of the field. You're going to use your opponent's side. And if you get rid of, let's just say, I don't know, a field of an ABC Buster Dragon, a Tsukiyumi, and a Gadget, that's a pretty common opening field. A lot of times, not only have you gotten rid of 3 monsters for 1 monster, but then when this thing is on your opponent's side of the field, when they do have an opportunity to actually target it, they won't really have the resources that they need to kind of come back. I mean, a lot of these decks like Heroes or ABC, they really only have like 1 card that can get rid of it at that point. And that's something like, I don't know, maybe they try to Castell it, but even if they do Castell it, what are they left with? There's just a Castell and that's it. That's really not gonna beat you. Yeah, you don't get your normal summon, but pretty sure you can defend, or you can beat just a Castell and nothing else. Now this card, unlike Kaiju's, does take up your normal summon, and that is definitely a downside because it means that you're kind of putting all your eggs into this basket. For the turn, you're not really going to be doing that much unless you're playing like a Pendulum deck or a fusion deck like Metaphos that can fuse from the hand. However, there is some bonus, there is some solace in that situation. The fact that it is a normal summon does mean that it can be used while under Vanity's Emptiness. It means that it can be used against Vanity's Fiend, and it also means that it can be used against Archlord Christia. Kaijus are pretty much just dead weight against any of those 3 cards, and this card actually can take all of those out. This card is also really good in the sense that it can't really be used as a threat against you. I don't know if you guys have ever seen somebody give their opponent a Lava Golem or give their opponent a Kaiju and then just straight up die to it because they don't have a way of answering it, or because, like, I don't know, maybe they gave a Kaiju a Gamma Blue Eyes, and then the player was like, all right, well, I'll rank 8 with your Gamma, thank you very much. You know what I mean? Like, those monsters are a threat to you. The Winged Dragon of Ra will never be able to actually kill you unless, I don't know, your opponent somehow is main decking like the Winged Dragon of Ra to something weird like that. They tribute your Spear Mode for a Ra. That would be awesome. But in general, guys, this card, not only can it not attack, but it has 0 attack anyways, so even if it could attack, it wouldn't be able to actually do any damage. So this card, not only is it a card that will never actually attack you, but it does provide you with some defense. That's another reason I kind of like this card over Kaiju's, is it provides you a way of cracking your opponent's boards, and then it gives you a defense line to kind of slow the game down. Because maybe your opening hand isn't very powerful and all you have is this play. This card, when it comes back to your side of the field, it basically just kind of sits there. It doesn't do anything, but it doesn't make, or it makes sure that you have an adequate defense. It cannot be targeted by monster effects, or pretty much any effects at all, and you can't attack it. So your opponent really is just relying on things like Dark Hole, Regeki field clears, or they're relying on non-targeting removal, things like Ignister or Trishula. And ABC Heroes, they don't really run that. Mermill, pretty much Trishula, and that's it. I mean, yeah, maybe people have Regeki or Dark Hole, but a lot of people aren't going to see you siding this card in. Now, there is obviously a huge downside to this card, is it's not as easy to summon as like a Kaiju or a Lava Golem is. If your opponent does not have 3 monsters on the board, you basically can't summon this thing. It will pretty much just be dead weight. Also, this card is dead weight if you don't draw it within, I would say maybe your first 7 cards. I'm going to leave a little bit of wiggle room there for maybe you open with like a Pot of Desires or something like that. If it's not in your opening 7 cards and your opponent has already established that big board of yourself Galaxy, or excuse me, Titanic Galaxy plus like Cyber Infinity or Bahamut Shard, totally awesome Dark Law, you're probably going to lose the duel because you weren't able to crack that super powerful board. And this card being the 10th or the 8th or the 9th card on top of your deck, it's not going to matter at that point. You're probably out of the game because your opponent has already consolidated your options, and they've probably already like they've grinded the game down to your top decking. A lot of your resources are gone, they're diminished. This card isn't really going to win you the game at that point. It's a terrible top deck and it's a terrible late game card. It's also completely bad if you go first with it because there's just no application for it. I can't think of any way that you can actually go first and summon this thing, nor would you really want to, because it would just be too risky of a play. So I don't really think that it's good in that sense. Now, overall, is this card a trash or a treasure? I love the Winged Dragon of Ra a lot. I personally like it a little more than Kaiju's this format, but to be completely honest, because it's just a lot more difficult to summon and it's a lot less reliable than Kaiju's, even though it has a higher ceiling, I honestly think it's kind of a trash, because it's a lot more gimmicky. And I don't like the time frame of the card. I don't like the fact that if you don't have it within your first 7 cards, it's just a non-factor. And it's also just completely dead going first. I know a lot of people are like, whoa, a Gamecill is dead going first. Well, not for Mermill. A Gamecill is not dead going first. Not for a deck like Paleozoics or Frogyazoic. They can discard that Gamecill and they can special their Swap Frog and they can get their graveyard going and they can get their totally awesome on the board. So those decks can actually use Gamecill if they go first and they open with it. If you open with the Winged Dragon of Ra mode, the Winged Dragon of Ra Spear mode, it is just completely dead weight. And come on, you guys know that. Now, as far as the price goes, no one can condone this, guys. You guys know this card is not worth $27. This card has actually gone up since YCS Anaheim. I believe before the event started, they were about $18, and I even thought that was too much because it's a gimmicky card that is never going to be main deck worthy. And honestly, it's only good in these formats where you have these super stun monsters. Outside of these super stun formats, it's not even a card you're ever even going to want to side deck. So I can't condone the price. I think the card is good under certain situations. I think it is an auto win card, but I do think it is a super high risk, high reward card because if you draw it medium to late game, it's dead. If you draw it in your opening hand, you're probably just gonna cry. I do like the fact that it can crack Vanities and Archlord Christian and whatnot, but I don't know, it's just a little too gimmicky. I mean, I like it in my Dark Magicians, but it is definitely a complete it's feast or famine with this card. And in a competitive environment, guys, I don't know if you want to stake your competitive tournament life on something like this. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Leave that in the comment sections below. Do you guys think that this card is a trash or a treasure right now? Would you consider buying this card for the price of $27? I honestly think this should be about an $8 card, but that's just personally me. Maybe there are a whole bunch of like Merrick fans out there that just want to play the deck and they're willing to spend out the cash. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already.